Beginning with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The cupboard is bare. I'm on. Number 4 on the agenda is a motion to approve the agenda. Here's a motion to that effect.
I'll move to approve.
Moved to approve by Kim.
I'll second.
Seconded by Bruce. Any discussion, questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is a list of consent items. I would entertain a motion to approve that, and then we can discuss it if necessary. Moved by Gary,
I'll second. Go ahead, Dave.
seconded by Davy. Now, any questions or comments, concerns about the consent items? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Reports, beginning with Superintendent Wagner.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, directors, student representatives, community. I want to center us in our mission, and it's to ensure individual academic, social, emotional growth that leads to engaged citizens and lifelong learners. As we transition into April with some interesting weather, knowing that it's impacting our spring sports, but we will continue to persevere. So it's amazing to watch the spring activities taking place. We're in the middle. We've begun our strategic planning, which is extremely exciting, and we've had a series of input opportunities. And really, as we think forward, leveling the organization to ensure that we have all voices present, we've had multiple engagements. We've met with the middle school students, and this was essentially what is their desired daily experience. What does that look like? And this is where I, as a superintendent, I will introduce, and then it will be facilitated by TeamWorks, and I step out. And it's an authentic conversation with our middle school students, as well as our high school students. And I heard the feedback has been amazing from those two groups. They facilitated conversation with secondary staff, early childhood and elementary staff, early childhood and elementary parents, middle school parents, high school parents, and then the strategic planning team. And we've had 2 meetings. We have one again this week where we've talked about the historical narrative as a strategic planning team from decades, from the 1970s, what's transpired in Albert Lea schools, and what has been their experience. And how do we then look in that review mirror, look at today, and then vision forward. And as we move into this week, we'll take all the different voices from the desired daily experience, and we'll put that into a codified look at what are the different voices saying about their experience and what would they like to see in Albert Lea schools. And then on May 1st, we'll also have an activity facilitated here with the board. So really looking forward. It's been some very interesting voices at the table. Just to hear the historical narrative has been extremely rewarding. As we move forward through organizational change, and then I pulled a philosopher from Socrates quote: "The secret of change is to focus all your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new." So we're really focusing on celebrating what has transpired and visioning as we move forward. And organizational change is truly your North Star. It is your vision. As we think of our organization, as transition and leadership takes place, the North Star will continue to exist. And that's something that, regardless of who is leading in the district, that North Star is very present, and that's the direction we're going. And then how do we continue to monitor and to ensure that we are making the steps forward on behalf of our students, staff, and caregivers. So with that, in the organizational change, there has been some leadership change throughout from here centrally as well as our buildings. But please know we will continue to ensure the very best leadership at the schools as well as centrally continues to exist. And that is part of, as we think about our development here, one will come out of human resources is how do we build that pipeline? How do we support, ensure that we are tapping on the next available person that is ready to continue their journey in leadership? And that is something we need to be committed to. We cannot just, we talked in cabinet today, we just cannot plan and hope. Hope is not a strategy. We have to support and develop our own talent within as well as continue to look outward and then retain our top talent. So as we move forward, the North Star, our vision will be defined in our strategic plan, and it's definitely some exciting work. But also then we're welcoming new voices to the leadership and to our organization to continue this inertia that we have going. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Wagner. And just a reminder, our next meeting, May 1st, to which the public is certainly invited, will be the board's involvement in strategic planning. It's our study session, and that's the main item on the agenda for that meeting. All right, what's the order? School board members. Let's start with Gary, and then we'll go back and forth.
Just a few things. I attended a robotics fundraiser last week, and I think they did really well. Talked to a couple parents, and I think it exceeded their expectations, and the hamburgers were great. It was all good. Attended the Teacher of the Year reception. Davey and I had a chance to get to know each other better, so it was a double win for me. Business Ed Committee, we met last week in person, which was very nice. And then just as an additional point, been hearing some positive feedback on the hiring of the additional resource officer. So I think very good move on our part, and I think it's been appreciated once that person starts.
Okay.
Yeah, Teacher of the Year celebration was a lot of fun, and we're already planning for next year. The calendar is up for next year, so thank you all for showing up. And the Fremont County Collaborative meeting that was scheduled was canceled due to a health issue, so that's all I have.
Okay. Angie.
All right, I'll be brief. I attended the insurance committee meeting earlier this month that Neil also went to, and we just talked about the insurance premiums that are on the agenda later tonight. And one would think that talking about insurance would be extremely boring, but they're fascinating meetings. I really like those. And Aaron Casper, who I think is coming tonight, leads those. He does a great job explaining everything. So that's what I have.
All right, yeah, I also was at the Teacher of the Year ceremony. It was kind of nice to see, after all the hard work throughout the process, how it all came together, and there was a nice turnout for that too. So it was, the speeches were great, and it was fun to be there. I also attended Tigers Roar, got to be a part of that. That was actually, I was in Tigers Roar a long time ago, so it was kind of fun to see the different things that happen, the different, what they do now, so that was a lot of fun. That's about all I got for now.
Did make a cameo appearance on stage?
No. No autographs this time.
Yeah, thank you. I attended the Business Ed Committee meeting as well, and we were in person, so that was really neat. We haven't been in person yet, and so it was a lot of energy in the room around workforce and strategies for the community as we move forward. One of the things that came up, and you'll start to hear more about this, is the Promise Scholarship that's coming to the community. We're hoping to launch it. It's a partnership with ALEDA, the Albert Lea Economic Development Corporation, the Chamber, and Riverland Community College. And the goal is that every graduating senior, starting in 2024, will receive their college paid for by the community if they choose to go to Riverland. So we're excited about that. There's a lot of, we were hoping to launch it this year, and it's just, we don't want to quick to fail, so we want to make sure we do it right and get all the supports in there. So there's a meeting this Thursday at Wedgwood for those. If anybody's interested in attending, you can connect with me just about pushing it to the to the finish line for funding. So, and then I attended the Teacher of the Year celebration, and it's fun for me because my kids are in their 20s now, and it's fun to see some of the teachers and just connect with them, and they ask about my kids, so that's really fun. So thanks.
Well, just a couple things. Did have an opportunity to speak with the 8th grade careers class last week and have a lot of fun there always. So you can imagine the questions they ask, and I always encourage you to ask anything because I pretty much will answer it. But that was fun. I've been spending some time with our baseball team. Got a couple more games this week. Now it's 3, supposed to have been 1 tonight. It was changed to Friday. And then a couple MSBA meetings. I guess strategic planning is on everyone's list at this time, and we're doing that. Then we have our annual meeting in May 11th and 12th, where we will finalize some things on the strategic planning. So that's it.
I was also at the Teacher of the Year banquet, and I second everyone else's comments on that. It's a fun thing to go to, and it's fun for me because I've worked with a lot of these people, and so I get to touch base with people that I used to be very close to and still am. I also we had an Education Foundation meeting last week, I guess, last Wednesday, and it's a busy season for us. We are planning the Hall of Fame banquet, which is going to be July 28th, I believe, and then the Distinguished Educator and Distinguished Alumni events are coming up in October around, I think, what is it, the 13th? Correct me if I'm wrong, Kim. And so those are kind of heavy topics for us. Involves a lot of planning, as you might imagine, and we have committees that are working on that, and they're doing a fine job. Also attended a Minnesota State High School League Section 1 committee meeting, which is always interesting. We meet in Otana right after the Section 1 activities directors meet, and the two groups both vote on resolutions that are in front of the high school league. Each section has a committee, so 8 sections, so there are 8 committees that vote on these resolutions. And it's interesting because those resolutions are oftentimes proposed by coaches, and so now once again I'm on the other side of the table, and it's interesting to have a little different, and not all that different, but you see things from a different angle. So I won't go into it. We had about 15 resolutions that we discussed and voted on. I'm certainly not going to wade you through them. Like as Angie, I attended the insurance committee meeting, and it seems to me there's something else I did too, but I can't remember what it was. But anyway, that's enough. Next, our student reps. We have 2 of them. Go ahead.
So we've been having a lot of senior activities, and we have more coming up with the senior breakfast and graduation, obviously, but senior dinner dance was great. I'm trying to think if there's anything else senior-wise. I think that's it, but track season is going pretty good. I manage the boys. We're 2-0 right now, hoping to take that to 3 tomorrow. But yeah, girls and guys both pulled a win on Friday versus, where'd we go? I don't know. Triton. We went to Triton. So that was fun. It was the first win for the girls in 8 years. So that was a great achievement for them.
Yep, I've heard a lot of good successes from our spring sports team so far. It sounds like everything's going really well there. Little successes, big successes, but the only thing is the weather, but hopefully that turns around. More on the junior side of things, I guess we just got done with our ACT testing, which feels great to be done with, but I guess I'm just really grateful for the opportunity to take that test at school and for free. I think that's really cool that we get that opportunity because I know a lot of people don't, and that can be like a barrier between, getting that test taken and getting, scholarships or what have you from the opportunities that come from that test. So that was cool. So that is done now, and we are looking forward to well, looking forward to AP testing.
Oh, God, don't remind me.
So that is coming up, which will give us, more opportunities for college credit, which is, again, really cool that we have that opportunity to do that in our school for free if we pass those tests. And then I know there was a lot of MCA testing going on, and believe that is all done with for the high school. But
there's makeup these next few days.
okay, yeah. So we got all that done with now, which is kind of a weight off our shoulders. But so that, I guess, I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
I don't think there is. That's everything.
Oh, I guess we did have a March Madness competition for our flex classes, which was really cool. I think it was really cool that we got to bring our school together like that.
It ended up being an 8th grade flex versus a senior flex. It was a little unbalanced with the aggressiveness wise of how much they wanted it, but seniors came up on top. So
Yeah, which was really cool. It was cool. We had a whole assembly on Friday during flex time.
Hungry hippos.
Yes, they played Human Hungry Hippos. It was really fun. And every flex got to participate at the beginning, and then slowly it went down to 2 flexes, and it was cool to see the support from everybody at the school for both teams. But yeah, that was really fun, and I think we'll continue to do that for years to come.
Yeah, we've been having a lot of fun at the high school. A lot of learning, but a lot of fun. So we're happy about that.
Thank you. Some things never change. Maggie, the teacher report. I appreciate your comments on the Teacher of the Year. Those people, the candidates are representative of the quality that we have in our district, in our state, and in our country, for that matter. Teachers are worthy of that recognition by all means. And the only brief comment that I did make, as per my instructions at that event, was that the Teacher of the Year is not a contest. There are no winners, because if someone wins that award, then the rest are losers, and that does not describe the people that are teaching in our classrooms. So the person selected represents the quality that's out there, and you pointed that out, that the one selected is simply a representative of the excellence that's present in our classrooms. And I see now that Aaron is here, we can proceed with the next item on the agenda, I believe, which would be effective and efficient, no, there's one before Aaron, 9.1 resolution relating to the termination of and non-renewal of the teaching contract for probationary teachers. Kathy.
Thank you, Board Chair Score, Directors, Superintendent Wagner. On behalf of the administration, you'll see a resolution relating to the termination and non-renewal of teaching contracts of probationary teachers. You can read the resolution there. These teachers are all probationary. Probationary teachers can be non-renewed without cause. All 6 were informed of their non-renewal on Friday, April 14th by their building principal. Give you a minute there to read it.
We've all had an opportunity to read that on the board, what is it, board book or board
Yes.
review.
Yes.
So we're familiar with the document.
Any questions? I recommend that the resolution be introduced and moved towards adoption.
All right, let's have a motion on the table and we can discuss it. Moved by Bruce to approve the resolution. Second by Angie. Now, any questions, concerns, comments? All right, hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. All right, now, 9.2, approving the recommended insurance premiums for the upcoming season. Jen and Aaron.
Thank you, Chairman Score and Directors, Superintendent Wagner. The Insurance Committee met on April 6th and listened to a presentation by Aaron Casper from National Insurance Services. They are who we contract with to really walk us through all of our insurance policies: health, dental, vision, life insurance, and long-term disability insurance. So we had quite a lengthy discussion at the Insurance Committee meeting, and Aaron is here to walk you through kind of what came out of that and what we are recommending for rates for our health and dental insurances for the coming year, renewal year on July 1st.
Okay, all right. Good evening, Chair Scar and fellow board members and Superintendent Wagner. So I'm just going to go ahead and refer to the your packet here. I'm going to run through the medical loss ratio, our medical renewal recommendation, our medical rate display, and then touch a little bit on our dental insurance renewal. So our medical loss ratio is really our top level calculation that we do to really see how a plan is running. And so really what that is that's taking the revenue that the plan is generating, so that's the premium or the employer contribution, and any potential employee share into the premium amount. And then it's comparing that to the claims. So revenue coming into the plan, and then our medical claims, which we're paying for on a weekly basis, those claims that are going outside of the plan. So what we're targeting is a loss ratio in the neighborhood of 80 to 85%. And if we're tracking at the 85% level, what we could expect to receive is a medical trend increase, or essentially medical inflation. So in our geographic area, we're probably sitting around that 7.5 to 8% range. And it varies anywhere from 5 to 12%, depending on where you're at in the state. So obviously we know we're kind of in Mayo country here. Our cost of care is more expensive in this geography. And the lowest medical trend is generally in the 7-county metro area, up in the cities where they have just more options available to them for care. So over the last 12 months, our plan is performing at 82%, which is fantastic. And then the prior 12 months, our loss ratio was 84%. So really we're right in that kind of sweet spot where we want to be as a self-insured plan. And just as a reminder, we are self-insured here at Albert Lea Area Schools. So what that means is that as a board, we're taking on calculated risk, and we are incurring and paying for the claims. And all we're really doing is contracting out with our partner currently, Blue Cross Blue Shield, to have access to their network and then to have them pay our claims. And we essentially are able to take advantage of their network discount for our folks that are, going and receiving claims for us. So in addition to that trend increase, what we also have to calculate back in is really what I just talked about. The access to the network, our administrative costs, the claims paying process, customer service at Blue Cross Blue Shield, those types of things, our administrative costs, our protection from shock claims, so our specific stop loss amount as well as our statutorily required aggregate protection are kind of our big umbrella that keeps us safe should we exceed an expected claims number that would be larger than anticipated. So when we do that, we're targeting 100% once we factor in our administrative costs. Right now we're running at 94%, which makes sense. We're below that, which is great. And our previous 12 months, we were at 95%. So really, over the last 24 months, Albert Lea Area Schools has been running very well. So what I have included in your packet, and we don't necessarily have to go through all these figures, but really just kind of a talk through. On the left-hand column to your left, moving to your right, is the month in which those revenue numbers were coming in, our estimated administrative costs, which we use a formula to calculate, which gives us our total claims. And then we have our revenue after claims. We want to be green, not red. We had a rather large expense in July, but that's not necessarily, out of the ordinary with a group plan our size. And then we have that monthly medical loss ratio that I referenced. And then after we add in our administrative costs, that in that far right-hand column, that's our loss ratio, including administration. So the reason I show you 12 months and then actually 2 consecutive 12-month periods is that anytime we run a renewal, we're always looking at 24 months of data because that's what the carriers are always looking at or the underwriters are looking at. So you've got 24 months of data there. Just reflective of those loss ratios, percentages that I gave you earlier. So you can go ahead and go on to the next slide. So our renewal recommendation, as I mentioned, we take a look at 24 months of data. We give more credence to the most recent 12-month period of time, just like we would in a normal renewal if we were out to market. And then we blend that trended medical inflation component of 7.8 in period 1, which is our most recent period, and then 7.7, which is our second period. We bring that together. We take our enrollment. So you take a look at 861 members there. Those are belly buttons. So those are the total number of people that we have on our plan, employees, dependent spouses, and then children. And we calculate that out, and based on how we've been running, we are recommending the board to accept a 2.6% overall plan increase, which is one of the lowest increases we've seen so far this year, which is great news. And what that really means from an overall dollar perspective is $213,431. And that would be assuming everyone stays in the exact same plan that they're in, okay? So we're using current enrollment. And so the individual medical plan pricing is actually going to vary slightly based on the three, or actually the four different plans we offer. And the reason for that is we are essentially aligning our rates. And so what that means is that we are taking the risk premium that we're charging based on the value of the plans that we have and we're being offered to our employees. What we don't want to do is we don't want to have those risk premiums get out of alignment with the value, actuarial value of the plan that's there. So it has no bearing on where our claims are occurring, which plans our members are having claims. It has no bearing on how many people are in either plan, so where they've selected their plan based on their personal preference. It has everything to do with the actuarial value of the plan, the minimum plan, and then all the plans that are being offered, and then making sure that premium equivalent is aligned with that particular plan. So we've got a range anywhere from a -2% to 5% based on those plans to keep them in alignment. And additionally, that $213,000 that represents the aggregate 2.6% includes our clinic expenses as well as our programming costs, such as Healthiest You, which is our opportunity to have individual employees and their dependents access from a virtual environment, 100% no-cost option to them for medical related, clinic-type visits, mental and nervous, mental health type visits, either with a therapist, a psychologist, or a psychiatrist, depending on what the needs were for that particular member, on an unlimited basis, as well as dermatology appointments, neck and back, and then also secondary opinions for anybody that may have a high claim, and then finally for any type of nutritional needs. So people have access to a dietitian that can help them meal plan, or help them maybe if you have a diabetic, kind of put together a plan for them. So we're offering that as a no-cost option to our members. So really in a great spot. So what do those rates look like? And it's in your packet there. Just those are highlighted in yellow for our 4 plans. Really, we have the 3 plans that are marketed to staff, which is that $1,200 plan, that $2,250, and the $3,000 deductible. Our $6,350 plan, as you can see, has the lowest enrollment. We have the ability as a district to deploy that plan to make sure that we meet affordability calculations for the Affordable Care Act, so that we don't necessarily subject ourselves to any penalties, and we can deploy that on an as-needed basis. So that's why you're not seeing very much enrollment in there. But those are the 2. Our current rates are right there, second column from the left, and then our renewal rates are in the yellow. And then finally is our dental plan. So we are offering a voluntary dental plan to our staff, so they have the ability to either, if they find value in it, select that plan and pay for it out of their own pocket through payroll deduction. And we have just a handful of folks, staff, that have an actual employer contribution to that plan. Very minimum, I think it's less than 5 or 10 total. But really, so what we're doing here is we don't have as much control in the renewal process. But what I can tell you is, if you kind of focus right in the that trend factor there at 10.47%, we initially received a 10.47, actually I think it was just a little higher than that, increase from Delta. We went back to them and said, hey, the vast majority of your increase that you're proposing is based on trend, which was artificially high from our perspective and our experience. So we went back to them, and they responded favorably for us and our plan and our employees, and came back with a 6.4% increase on our plan. So essentially, we're offering our plan at a 6.4% increase to the employees that choose to elect dental coverage. And that is it, and probably a lot more of insurance than you wanted, but like to be thorough and certainly would welcome any questions that you may have.
What's included in administrative costs?
So administrative costs, things such as our stop loss insurance, so our specific amount that we pay for as protection, our aggregate protection, so again, stop loss insurance, and then access to the Blue Cross Blue Shield network, and then the claims paying, as well as our costs are in there. So the vast majority of that expense is really access to network, claims paying, and then the stop loss insurance.
So Aaron, with a new employee or a current employee, when they have questions about the value of the plans, i.e. deductibles versus, total costs, everything in the plan, do they deal directly then with you, or do they deal directly with HR? How do they do that here?
Yeah, so it's really dependent on the employee and how they approach that. They always have the option to come to us. So we have a team of 5 that works with Albert Lee area schools. Ashley Vienendahl is our primary go-to person. We've got Brock Buckaloo, who's the account manager. He's really the day-to-day operation that works with Jennifer and her team in the district administration. But we welcome those calls. Those are typically calls that we would take, or the employee would go to the district office through either HR or the business office and ask that question. And if it needed to be elevated, they usually pass them on to us. Those generally aren't the calls that go to Blue Cross Blue Shield. Those would be more plan related, say, how does this work, or is this covered, or something like that. But we take those calls.
So, yeah, so first I just want to address a little bit of your last question. So Kaylee Grissom, our business services coordinator, she meets with every new staff person and goes over all of their options. And she really is our go-to person in the district that has a very in-depth knowledge of all of our insurance plans. And yes, Aaron alluded to, we now subscribe to something called Healthiest You, and staff have the ability virtually download a very simple app to access all of those doctors that he mentioned, whether it's for mental health or dietary needs or just, regular doctoring. And so our staff, it's a relatively new program. We're still really trying to get the information out and get staff to remember that it's available to them. But yes, that is an option at any time. That's 24/7.
Correct. Yep.
I just had a question on, you had indicated we're lower than what you're seeing. So can you give us an average, or kind of what's the highest you're seeing, what's the lowest you're seeing?
74% is the highest, and negative 2.5% is the lowest. Yeah, I would say it's interesting, kind of in our just geographic area, kind of a little triangle with Austin and Owatonna, all self-insured plans, like Albert Lee area schools. We're running well. I mean, we're bucking the trend. The vast majority of claims costs that we're seeing statewide, and we've got large metro groups, states, groups up on the Iron Range, northwest Minnesota, southwestern Minnesota, central Minnesota. We're seeing overall a general rise in claims. We haven't seen that here, which is great for us. It's really good for us. It allows us to really, I think, prepare for when that tide turns, right? So our whole goal with self-insurance, we knew right from the beginning that it's not the silver bullet, but what it really does is it allows us to smooth out those oscillations, right? So we're not jumping up and we're not going way down. We want to really smooth those out. And that helps and is beneficial on a number of levels, primarily at the negotiations table, right, where you've got multiple bargaining units, you've got a board here that I'm sitting in front of this evening, that stability is good. It gives us an opportunity to project out and plan over the next couple years, which is typically our window. And so far, I'm happy to report that we're meeting that objective.
Aaron, do you want to address our reserves and where we are?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So typically in a self-insured plan over a 5-year period of time, it varies, but what we really want to be at within a 5-year period of time is around a 35% funded level. So what I mean by that is as an example for easy numbers, if we have $10,000, or excuse me, $10 million of, I wish $10,000, right? $10 million of total claims in a year. If we could finish up in year 5 and have, $3.5 million set aside in a reserve to really help us for those years in which we are not running at a, 94% loss ratio, that really puts us in a good position. It doesn't eliminate increases, but it really allows us to smooth those out. So if maybe we were tracking a little bit hotter on our claims, let's say at a, 100% loss ratio type thing, maybe if we needed a 10% increase, that might allow us to smooth it out to maybe like a 6 or a 7, as an example. So I'm happy to report, we have done a very good job, primarily just how we've been accessing healthcare and how our claims have worked out. We're sitting around that 40-45% level right now, and we're finishing up year 3. So what that really means is that puts us in good stead for future medical cost increase and renewal actions. And it also allows us to deploy things like a Healthiest You application. So, levers that can really be meaningful and directly impact our members and move claims off of our plan, right? We've got the funding, and it also allows us to continue to invest in our medical clinic, our on-site clinic. So it really puts us in a good spot.
Is there a threshold after, like you say, 40-45%, that you start to look at, now we maybe have too much in reserve, or?
Yeah, that's a good question. We've got clients with as little as 15% as their plan is immature and they're growing those reserves, all the way up to clients that are 100% funded. I would say from where I come from a consultant perspective, I think once we approach that 50% level, we want to try to maintain that, and I mean that's good. I mean that is like we're in a good spot at that point because, again, that helps us buffer any potential unexpected high claims, as well as gives us the flexibility as a district to deploy any cost-saving strategies that we may desire to bring to our members.
Now, if memory serves me right, last year we took a 0% increase.
Correct.
So really over the last 2 years, if this was passed tonight, it's under 1.5% on average.
Correct. Yeah. And, if we compare that to trend in this area at 7.5 to 8%, we're doing well. Right.
Just wanted to tell you thank you. Seems like you've really helped us, Aaron, to get into a good spot. So thank you for that. And then one quick question. There's been some interest, I know it came up at the insurance committee meeting, about adding in the future a non-Mayo plan. I know you had mentioned concerns about reducing the premiums coming in, but then there's also the idea that maybe the cost would be lower. Would there be a way for us to do a study at some point where we could get more concrete answers?
Yeah, certainly. So the question really revolves about narrowing the network. So right now, all of our 4 plans that we're offering to our members, and really 3 of them are marketed, as I mentioned, we have what's called an open access network provided by Blue Cross Blue Shield. So really what that does is that allows for individual employees to select their care providers as they choose. So it gives them the ultimate flexibility. So what you're referring to, Angie, is really a potential side-by-side, a different plan offering. Let's say it would mirror our 3 different plans, or maybe one, and that's what I'd probably recommend, is saying, let's say we carve out Mayo Clinic as an example, right? Our most expensive clinic access point. What does that do to our plan, right, from a revenue perspective? What we want to be careful of, but we're in a really good spot, right? We're at close to 50% funded already. We just want to be careful not to short our plan revenue, right? And so, yes, absolutely, we can do a study, and we can see what we would be looking at from a plan pricing perspective. We're able to set our own premium equivalents relative to our plans, so we have the ability to control, right, kind of where how much of an impact that would make on our revenue. The beautiful thing is, what I would share with the board tonight is that we are really not in a position where we have to do that, because we're offering really the best possible plan options and network availability for our employees, and we're not in a financial position where we are forced to narrow that network because we have to chase trying to keep our plan pricing down. We've actually done that successfully already. But the advantage, and I appreciate the question, I know Chair Scar has mentioned that as well in our insurance committee. What it does do is it potentially offers individual employees, depending on where they fall in classification, an opportunity to have a lesser premium equivalent on the plan that they would select. So there is value in that, and that's a long answer for yes, we can absolutely do that, and certainly we will do that as we take a look at our next renewal cycle for next year.
Does part of that study include some kind of survey to the employees?
Typically, no. It doesn't. It's not to say that we couldn't do that, but really what we want to do is have that conversation probably in a smaller group setting, like the representative insurance committee setting, to really take a look at that and walk through the numbers. And my fear is just, and I'm totally fine with doing surveys, but my fear is that let's say we put that out there and say, yeah, we're looking into this. Doesn't matter how much you say and how clear you are, say we're looking into this. People fill out a survey and say, hey, this is coming, right? So, and then maybe we don't go down that road. But yeah, we would, if it's decided that it makes sense to deploy it, we would certainly, offer the education and make it available to employees.
Yes, Aaron, excuse me, I'd agree that the surveys aren't probably the best way to get data. And my vision on this is that it might possibly be something that could be a part of the negotiations process where bargaining units would see a possible presentation or suggestion that they might make in the insurance package. As I've said many times, I'm no expert on insurance, but it seems to me like this ratio you're talking about is a function of the cost of our claims and a function of the premiums that are collected. And if the premiums, a lower claim and higher premiums collected would improve that ratio. Mm-hmm. And if it's also, in my simplistic way of looking at things, it would appear that if it may be possible to lower the cost of claims if we had a non-mail track. I'm not certain about that, but it's something that, as you suggested, is worth looking into. And as I see it, the advantage of this would not be so much an advantage to our district, but it may be an advantage to our employees, we as a district have X amount of dollars available for packages for settlements that are, that are upcoming now. It is the season again. And if that X number of dollars can be spread over a package where insurance costs, as perhaps a result of a non-mail track, that would mean there would be more dollars to go elsewhere on the employees. So I'm thinking that the employees and the bargaining units might be interested in looking at this, but it's not something that they probably have the wherewithal to determine the extent to which that may be an advantage to their insurance package. So I totally agree. Somebody has to do an in-depth and an objective and unbiased investigation into this possibility.
Yeah, typically we've deployed, and I agree 100%, and that's really where for us as a plan sponsor, it's our plan as a district, and we're taking on the risk. We're going to pay our claims. Our claims are claims regardless of which plan they take, or if it's a non-mail plan or it's a mail plan. You're absolutely right. It really is going to impact the employee if they perceive the value in that. And I would say there's nothing wrong with that choice in doing that. We just want to make sure that we protect our revenue, but we're in a phenomenal position to be able to do that. So Yeah, we absolutely will do that. I'm hearing you loud and clear, and certainly that was a discussion that we had at our most recent insurance committee meeting. So, yeah, we can absolutely look at that and figure out if that's something that we want to deploy.
And I might add, that possibility has absolutely nothing to do with this proposal, that you're, I mean.
Correct. Yep.
We're talking about a recommended premium rate that we as a district are going to put out there as the cost of premiums for the insurance that we offer.
Correct.
Yeah, and just to clarify, I wasn't necessarily survey was the mechanism, but more of that employee input and understanding of what it is exactly that what they're not getting or getting if we would do any changes. And the revenue piece, I think, is hard for people to grasp, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, yes, so yeah, they look at it through a different lens than I do, right? But you're absolutely right. I mean, we want to be able to attract and retain, bottom line. And I'm very familiar with the collectively bargained contracts, and there's different contributions based on, which bargaining unit folks are in. And bottom line, stuff is expensive. The fortunate thing for us, based on where our plan pricing is today and how the vast majority of the contributions are, we haven't had to drive there, right? We haven't been forced to go down that road, but that doesn't mean that it still isn't prudent to evaluate that. So yeah, duly noted.
Okay, let's put a motion on the table, and then if there are any further questions or comments. So do I hear a motion to approve this resolution regarding the cost of insurance as presented on this graph?
I'll move to approve.
Move to approve by Kim,
I'll second.
seconded by Dave. Now, any further questions, comments?
I guess it's nice, as you mentioned, not to have to cut benefits, because just like somebody on a homeowner's insurance, gosh, I gotta cut my premium, so I'm gonna raise my deductible 3 times, and I just saved $250 for the year. Here, we don't have to do that. Yeah, it's a nice, also, if I remember right too, none of these plans are HSA or MSA eligible because we do have our clinic, is that correct?
It's not necessarily, clinic, potentially, we've got a safe harbor out there. It's really, we're choosing a different funding vehicle, an HRA, a health reimbursement arrangement versus a health savings account. There's some differences there, but for our discussions here tonight, they're really a funding vehicle where the employer can dump money in for the employee to use, and if they don't use it for eligible medical-related expenses, they can go ahead and carry that over. So we're just really we've taken a different track here at Albert Lee, but still a phenomenal option for employees. Correct.
Hey, yeah, I have a quick question. So the rates here, is this insurance offered to only full-time employees? Do we know how that's all offered to?
If we anticipate an employee is going, either after a year, a look-back period has worked on average over 30 hours a week, or if we anticipate and know that will be the case moving forward, they are offered insurance.
With 30 hours a week?
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess my concern, I'm looking at the numbers on there, and if you have a paraprofessional who's making maybe $16,
Right.
$17 an hour, times 30 hours a week, that's roughly a little over $2,000 a month, correct?
But you have to remember, these are the premiums. The district makes a sizable contribution towards these
Okay.
premiums. So this is not the employee share.
It's not.
This is the total
Okay.
premium. And every group bargains every group individually bargains what the district share will be as part of their negotiations.
Okay, thank you.
That's a good question, a good point. Yeah, those figures don't reflect what the employee pays. They reflect what is paid.
What,
Combination.
yeah, between the employer share, our share, and the employee share, it will equal this amount. And then this amount is what goes into
Okay.
our self-insured fund every month.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just a final comment. I want to thank Mr. Casper as well as Executive Director Walsh as we think through this and really supporting our staff. And then an aggregate increase, recommended increase of 2.6 is very minimal as we continue to be fiscally prudent. and also supporting our employees. So this is something that, as we continue to move forward, I believe it is supporting our staff, but also putting us in a good position to continue to move forward as a district. So thank you for your recommendation and advisement.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Thank you. Same here. Thank you.